Peace, party people. Welcome back to where my killer tape at. Man, we are episode, what is it? Episode 53. Lord have mercy, man. I apologize for last week. I was actually out of it. I was under the weather and I actually lost my voice for about 5 days. It was brazy, party people. So thank you for bearing with me on that. We're going to talk about, and I'm going to leave this subject alone after this, time travel and Avengers 4. We're also going to talk about the legacy of George Bush the First. I'm going to do a quick shout out to Stan Lee. I'm going to do a quick mini review of Shuri by Nnedi Okorafor, which is a Marvel comic. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about some Netflix shows that I think we do need to talk about, right? Because it's getting colder. So definitely check that out. And I'm going to talk about how we can't say woke no more, man. White folks took the term again, man. So yo, check it out. Rock, steady. Rock, steady. Rock, rock, rock. Steady, 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 steady.
Gangsta, gangsta, gangsta. Gangsta, gangsta, gangsta. As for you profess it, make sure the science is applied. But that who, what, where, when. Sometimes
I pull up, hop out, arrow, made it look sexy. They won't take me out my element. Nah, take me out my element.
While recording this episode, I'm sipping on a Pinot Noir by 19 Crimes. They make some really good wines. I've been drinking Malbecs lately, and their Malbec is pretty good. So I tried their Pinot Noir, and it's dope, man. These folks are based out of southeastern Australia. It's an exploitative of, the prison industrial complex, but they make some good wines. So that's what I've been sipping on. Word. So, I watched John Leguizamo's Latin History for Morons. I think that's what it's called. Is it Latino History for Morons? Anyway, I watched it, and let me just say this: like, when I've been a fan of John Leguizamo for decades, and I remember when he first came out, he had these 2 one-man shows. I wouldn't call them stand-up, because they were funny, but they were 2 one-man shows, and they were really, I love it because it was versatile. And I know he came up in New York City. Now I'm gonna be honest with you, and I'm gonna get into the Netflix show in a second. But I'm gonna be honest with you. I thought he was Boricua. I thought he was, Puerto Rican or half Puerto Rican or something. And then because he lived in New York and he used a lot of slang that Boricuas, I'm gonna say New Yorkers use. He used a lot of slang, a lot of the cultural references and everything that Boricuas use. Which, from New York, which if you from New York, you're gonna be that way. Whether you black, white, you're gonna make these references to New Yorican culture. So if you from the New York tri-state area, from the 5 boroughs, your like connection to Latinx culture is gonna be New Yorican. You know what I mean? And let me just say this: Latinx culture is very broad because you have South America, Central America, you have the Caribbean, so it's gonna be mad broad. So but he was always kicking like that. So I'm not gonna lie, I did not do my due diligence. I assumed he was Boricua, and I know that I think I heard somebody say he was like half Boricua. Anyway, I just assumed that he was. Now, throughout the course of his career, he's taken on roles that usually will go to a white person, which is dope, right? It's kind of like what you want in Hollywood, right? So I watched the show on Netflix, right? And I'm gonna get back to my point in a second. I watched the show on Netflix, and I was really hurt by it. And he references Africans for like 2 seconds, and then he keeps it moving. And then it's like he just talks about mestizo, and also he talks about native, the First Nation peoples that were in Central America and South America. and which we should, you know, like, because history doesn't teach us that. Like when you go to take American history in school, in, you know, elementary school, high school, middle school, they don't teach us that. You don't really get that till you go to college, and you pay for that, right? Anyway, he did a lot of erasure, and I was hurt because I didn't think he would do that. Why? Because in his earlier works that he did, his one-man shows, he consistently referenced Afro-Latinx culture, or as we call Afro-Latinidad. He really, really referenced that, and he did it all the time, right? But it really made me look at his career, and I realized that the reason why he got those roles is because he's a white representing Latinx or Latino. Because you do have that, right? Because really Latino is not a race, it's a culture, it's a broad culture filled with many races. So yes, you have Afro-Latinos or Latinx, but you also have white representing Latinx, excuse me. So I peeped that, and I really, really peeped that. So I was kind of hurt about it. Let me just say this, it's not that funny. It's not a really funny, I don't know if it's like his previous work, his earlier work when he did the one-man shows, where it was more, it dealt more with social political stuff. It wasn't that funny. It was dope, but it wasn't funny like it wasn't in Stitches, right? But it was still dope, because he dealt with Afro-Latinidad. He doesn't do that on this show, and there's a lot of erasure, and that's, again, he's white representing Latinx. So I should have seen that coming when I really look at his career. And then, you know, when I did the math, when I finally did the research, I realized that he's not Boricua. Again, it's cool if you do a one-man stand-up and you bring up that culture of New York City, because I don't think you can talk about New York City without talking about New Yorkers, to be quite honest. I don't think you can. So I get that, but now I really look at his career and I'm kind of like, man, bruh, where you coming with this? And again, I'm a fan, so, but it's a lot of erasure, and I think that's fucked up. You know, and you know, I'm feeling some type of way. I probably need a couple more weeks to kind of like really filter it out, but that's how I feel. I wouldn't recommend watching it. I mean, to get the First Nation aspect of it, yeah, but it's a lot of erasure in it, and I don't think that's cool. Word.
It's all a game. It's all a game.
I know Netflix has a lot of original content. Oof. And let me just say this, when it comes to the stand-up, like the comedy stuff, they slacking, man. They really slacking. Like there's like, they put out like a stand-up joint every 2 minutes, and like 95% of that stuff be horrid. Anyway, I did find 2 jewels for y'all. One jewel is Mo Amir, and Amir is spelled A-M-E-R. Really, really dope stand-up. I didn't see that coming. And then I just learned that like Dave Chappelle's like his mentor. Matter of fact, he does the intro for it, but it is hilariously funny. I love the fact that Mo, he's he's Muslim, and he moved to a part of the country where it's predominantly Latino, and so he grew up around a lot of Latinx people. So a lot of people assumed that he was Latino, and I thought, oh my God, his situations are hilarious. So I highly recommend that one. And the second one I recommend is Hari Kondabolu, and that's spelled Kondabolu. Another one that I didn't see coming that was just hilarious. I mean, he had me in stitches. Oh my God. So definitely check that out. And I like how they deal with Islamophobia. And just to show how idiotic we are as Americans when it comes to Islamophobia and stereotypes and stuff like that. And I think that I like that they address that. So I highly recommend those 2. Again, Netflix has a lot of stand-up that you're just like, I'm just like, wow, like really, guys, like, can you do better? There's just a lot of, frat boy humor that I just not really a big fan of. So the Dave Chappelle joints on there weren't that great. The Chris Rock one was all right. I just expected a lot better. And shout out to Netflix for putting a lot of people on, because there was a lot of people that were a lot of comedians that didn't have a chance. Like they were trying to get HBO special or Showtime comedy special, and Netflix gave them that chance. So I think that's dope. But most of this stand up is you just be falling asleep. Word. There's a Netflix series that I'm not a big fan of, Hip Hop Evolution. It's okay. I've watched like season 1. I watched the first 2 episodes, and I like wrangled through it. It's hosted by this MC from Canada called Shad Kabongo. Hopefully I'm saying his first name right. I know Kabongo I got right. But I really want to focus on, and shout out to Misty Creates for this one. Season 2, yeah, there are 2 seasons. Episode 3, Due to Knowledge. I like it because it talks about the Latin Quarter, and they got Paradise Gray in it, who's somebody that we need to talk more often about when it comes to hip-hop culture, particularly in the tri-state area of New York, Connecticut, and New Jersey. Anyway, the episode also features how KRS-One and Boogie Down Productions first came up, and then it gets into the native tongues. I thought that was really dope. I would like to see a documentary on the native tongues. I know that the Tribe Called Quest documentary, Beats, Rhymes, and Life, kind of touched on them. It really talked about Baby Bam of Jungle Brothers and how he put all of them together. But I really liked how it got really deep into it. And they interviewed Queen Latifah. No, they don't interview Latifah. They interview, Moni Love, who is always a pleasure to listen, to watch. So definitely check it out if you get a chance. Another Netflix joint that you should check out. So, and maybe check out Hip Hop Evolution. I don't know. It's not my cup of tea, but it might be yours. It's been a few weeks since the passing of the legend Stan Lee, and I know I didn't have a chance to talk about him. And I don't know. I don't want to do like a tribute episode or anything like that. Not that he doesn't deserve it. I just kind of feel like other people did it better or going to do it better. So let me just say this. When I was a young lad living in New York City, when I was a messenger, I think I was about 14 years old. I know it was the summer of '88, and I was working as a messenger in Midtown Manhattan. And I used to see him every morning. And I told this story a zillion times. I think I tell this story like every week. And I would see him in the morning. But the thing is, it wasn't like he was like next to me. He was like half a block away. I would see him, and I would always yell out. And I never forget, like the first time I saw him, like in the morning, I was with a homie from Brooklyn, this kid that I used to dance with. And he was like, I was like, oh shit, that's Stan Lee. And he was like, who? And I was like, this is before the internet. This is '88, so there's no internet. You either know or you don't know who that person is. So like, I was like, boom, that's Stan Lee. And he was like, who? And I was like, damn, you don't know who Stan Lee is? I was bugging, yo, because now everybody knows who Stan Lee is. Like, everybody. Like, when he passed away, everybody hit me up. Even people that didn't read comics was like, yo, Stan Lee passed away. And everybody was asking me how I felt. So it was wild, like, that how the zeitgeist changes, right? Anyway, I was like, yo, and so every morning I would see him, I would say, Excelsior, right? And he would turn around and be like, good morning to you, true believer. So he did that. The summer '88, he did that. I did that with him every morning. So that's my Stan Lee story, and that's how I'm gonna keep telling it. Word. I just finished reading issue number 2 of Shuri by Nnedi Okorafor. Couple of things to say on the geek side. So there's only 2 issues. Issue 3 is supposed to come out in the middle of December. But shout out to the artist Sam Spratt. He does all the covers. The covers are just spectacular. They're great paintings. Like, you probably gotta like. I heard somebody say that they would like to put these paintings up in their house. They're really dope. And I know T with Queen and Jay talked about how they get her braids right. I know in comic books they usually don't get braids right, so definitely shout out to that. Anyway, the story is about how T'Challa and one of my favorite superheroes, Manifold, who's actually the nephew of Gateway, who was in the X-Men briefly, during the Chris Claremont run. And then he was later killed. But he kind of like has the same powers of teleportation, but what he can do is he can fold space and time, which is different from teleportation, because what that means is he can teleport people instantaneously by folding both space and time. I know I'm getting a little bit complicated and nerdy. Anyway, they're missing, so Shuri is called forth to find them. First, they want her to take the mantle of Black Panther, which I give them props. I give Nedia Okorafor props, because her and Ta-Nehisi Coates are probably the only people that have referenced Secret Wars 2015. I know I'm being geeky again, where all the different Earths and universes were destroyed, it's particularly this one. And then Doom became God Emperor Doom, and he had a plan. You hear me talk about this before. And then T'Challa was able to bring it back in one of the Infinity Stones. But they referenced that, how she at one time held the mantle of Black Panther and later died doing that because she was killed by the Black Order, which is the little crew that Thanos had as generals when they invaded Wakanda a couple of times. So, yep, I think that's dope. I highly recommend getting it. The biggest issue that I have is that when they first announced it, a lot of people was like, oh, I'm going to get it. And it's like, y'all not getting it. What's up with that, man? I know some people, I know there are some people out there, a good number of people who are like, I do trades. And that's cool because you got to wait for like 6 to 7 months to get that trade. But just a FYI, trades are dependent on single issues. So if not enough single issues are purchased, then they're not going to do the trade. That's pretty much how it is. I haven't seen the numbers for issue number 1, but I know that I got issue number 1 immediately and issue number 2 immediately, but I have gone back and I still see like copies of issue number 1 and issue number 2 going around. The way I could tell if a series is doing well, me personally, is if you can't find those particular issues. So just giving you a heads up. I shall put a link in the show notes.
Yes.
The name of the game is light work. Night of the slips. The name of the game is light work.
I know I addressed this in a previous episode, but people keep hitting me up. People keep asking me, like, oh, are they going to do time travel in Avengers 4? And people think that that's like the answer to the whole shit. And, and then I know the Russo brothers, they like to troll. So they released clips of, everybody in their old uniforms from Avengers number 1. Now, let me just say this. Number 1, I don't think that is actual clips from Avengers 4. I really don't think it is. I think they just throwing you stuff from before and got you thinking that it is. Number 2, even if it is, it's probably a flashback. Okay, so let's leave it at that. Do I have proof? No, but I just think that the Russo brothers, they have a history of trolling people, and that's just a way of them trolling people. Good example would be when the original promos came out for Avengers 3. They had the Hulk in the scene where they're in Wakanda and Iron Man. So like they weren't there, like Iron Man wasn't there, and then the Hulk wasn't the Hulk. It was Bruce Banner. So, that being said, if you read the comics, the way they fix it is, and I'm not saying they can do this in the movies with this particular character, but Nebula gets the Infinity Gauntlet and puts everything back. That's what happens. It is that simple. It is that simple. People are like, oh, but Thanos doesn't have the Infinity Gauntlet when they show him at that last scene. But we know that after he snaps his finger and he removes his, he teleports himself back with the Infinity Gauntlet. Just because he doesn't have it in that scene doesn't mean he doesn't have it. So why are y'all making a big deal out of it, right? All somebody needs to do is they need to find the Infinity Gauntlet and use the reality gem and the power gem to bring everybody back. That's all you got to do. That is it. It's done. I know you're like, but think about it. It's not going to be that simple. Why? Because if half the universe is gone, you're going to have all these problems and disasters that need to get fixed first, right? Remember, the people that are on Titan, which is just Iron Man and Nebula, don't know what happened on Earth and vice versa, right? So, so you got to look at it like that. So everybody's got to figure out where they need to go next, right? Then they got to fix everything up, and then they got to come up with a plan because nobody knows what Thanos is. The only person that probably knows is already dead. And so it's like, who's going to know? Nebula probably knows, and she's probably going to be key in Avengers #4 as she was in the Infinity Gauntlet story in the comic books. So I'm not saying she's gonna get the Infinity Gauntlet, but the simple plan is to find it, right? Defeat Thanos and bring everything back. That's as simple as that. And it doesn't have to be that complicated. It doesn't have to be as complicated as we're making it. It's just a simple plot. Just like it was a simple plot for him to get all the gems, snap his fingers, and do what he did. It's the same way getting it back. That's all they need to do. They don't need to do time travel. They don't need to go back here. They don't need to do all that. It is that simple. So I'm going to leave it at that. Stop asking me. Word. Also, fuck, man, we can't say woke anymore, man. Damn it, right? Anyway, if you've been hiding under a rock, there was this cat. I don't even think, is that his real name? Sam Whiteout? Like, that's got to be his pen name, right? Anyway, this dude, he wrote an article. What was the name? He wrote an article. First of all, he's a member of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity, man. Man, y'all black Greeks be wilding out, man. Anyway, he wrote for the Harvard Kennedy School Journal of African American Public Policy. I know that's a mouthful, right? And he talked about wokeness, Black Panther, and Drake. Woo! Like, man, I didn't read the piece. I just know that he got a white dude who writes about wokeness, Black Panther. I think you need to chill. I think you need to and you know, people did discuss that. You know, someone black should have wrote that, and I agree. Somebody black, should have wrote it. Now, I'm going to say this. I'm not going to talk about how problematic it is, this Sam Whiteout dude is. He did another snafu earlier this year. There's probably about 1 million think pieces on it right now. I'm not even going to get into it. But we might as well retire the term woke, right? I mean, I love that term too, man. Especially, shout out to T with Queen and Jade. I took this one phrase from them, level 1 woke. You know how your homie just becomes woke. You know, we used to say conscious back in my day. But I guess we got to go back to saying conscious, right? So, nope, we can't use that term anymore, man. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. The party is over. George Bush the First has passed away. And the revisionist history buffs are already out there doing the work. Doing what we call it? Tricknology. It's called tricknology. That's what they do, man. And I mean, the body ain't even cold yet, and they already talking about how this guy, George Bush the First, was like an activist and stuff like that, and he really cared. He ain't give a fuck about nobody, man. Here's the wild part. I'm old, so I remember when he ran for the presidency back in '88. Ooh, talk about '88 again. And how he ran on a tough on crime campaign using this Willie Horton dude. And that's actually the first time I heard the term super predator. It was during that time, actually. I'm not saying that George Bush the First was the first one to use it, but I know in that campaign, that's what they used to describe Willie Horton. They say that he was a predator. But anyway, there's a story, right, about how George Bush, I remember. I actually remember this like it was yesterday, how he pulled out this bag and it had all this crack in it, and he was like, "Yo, I got this crack in the street, like I found it right across the street from the White House," and everybody was like, "Whoa, yo, that's crazy, son." I remember that vividly when he did that, and I'm not gonna lie, I came up during the crack cocaine era. I know, it wasn't no walk in the park, man. So any kind of story that came out, we kind of like ran with it. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, he made it seem like he walked out of the White House like he just was like, "Yo, I'm going to run out here right across the street and I'm just gonna buy a vial of crack." You know what I mean? And we knew he was bullshitting, man. We knew he was bullshitting. Anyway, there's this cat, Joshua Clark Davis. He did a nice meme. He did a nice thread on it, and on Twitter. And I'm gonna put that in the show notes. And he's an assistant professor of African American and public history in the University of Baltimore. And he did a nice thread on it. Anyway, again, at the time we didn't know that we knew that Bush didn't buy the crack. Like we knew he didn't buy it like he was kicking it. But we didn't know like the extent of what he did. So what we learned is that the DEA actually was like, let's do this thing where we make it seem like the president is going to buy crack. And actually what they did, this is wild. And you know what? Let me take that back. I'm not even going to say that it's wild because we know the story of how crack cocaine got infiltrated our communities. We kind of know how it is, right? And how the government was directly involved with it. Anyway, the DEA started asking people, African-American drug dealers, if they could go out by the White House and they could, sell crack. Of course, a lot of cats was like, I'm not doing this. You know what I mean? But they actually asked someone. They didn't show up. So then there was this cat named Keith Jackson, and Joshua Clark Davis talks about this. He was a resident of Anacostia, a 19-year-old high school senior. And he's been in contact with the DA for months. So he goes over there, and the DA agent, buys the crack. But this is the interesting part of the story because it demonstrates how segregated DC was. Because Keith Jackson didn't know, where the White House was. You know what I mean? So they had kind of said, then when they explained it to him, he was like, oh, okay, where Reagan lives, right? So the agents lured Jackson to Lafayette Square and they made a small purchase from him. And it was on September 1st. They didn't initially arrest him. And a few days later, President Bush made the announcement, we got this crack right across the street from the White House, blah, 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 blah. Later on, the DA agents actually arrested Mr. Jackson, and he was convicted in January 1990. September 1990 he was convicted, and he ended up doing like 10 years. Like, what? It's crazy, you know what I mean? So it's wild, like it's crazy. So it's a crazy story, man. And again, black people suffered because of it, because Bush ran on this tough on crime thing, and people ran with it, and he started this war on drugs that black and brown people have been the direct victims of. So all this whitewashing, man, y'all gotta chill with that, man. Come on, man. I was about to say stay woke, but nah, man. As Public Enemy says, don't believe the hype. Talk real quick for this health segment about skincare. Yes, gentlemen, particularly the gentlemen, you should stay lotioned up, especially during the cold months, because that's when we get really ashy. I know me myself, I get really ashy. So definitely stay lotioned up and get good quality lotion. Like get the real quality stuff. Don't get the cheap, Dollar General, 10 gallon for $1. That stuff is not going to continue to apply it. Usually apply it after you get out the shower. And apply it to your whole body. I know me, I like to use coconut oil in private areas. And yes, that actually works. It keeps you definitely moisturized. But let me just say this before we talk about how we take care of it on the outside. Your skin is reflective of what's on the inside. Skin is actually the biggest organ on your body. Not the biggest organ, but it's one of the biggest organs in your body. It covers up all your entire body. There was a time when people were tarred and feathered and they would die because the tar would cover up their skin. That's where a lot of your oxygen comes out of. A lot of the toxins and everything come out of there. It also works as a ventilation system. So if you're sweating, like when you're working out, that's a good sign that that's the sign that you're hydrated and everything. So sweating is not actually a bad thing. It smells funny, but it just shows that your body is working, particularly that organ. So what you put inside your body is going to come out your skin. I know me, myself, I eat a lot of garlic. You can smell it on me. So if I eat certain foods, you can probably smell it on me. And again, that demonstrates that my body's working how it's supposed to be working. So take care of your body, and it's going to show on your skin. Stay hydrated. So, drink plenty of water. And of course, fruits and vegetables. Stay away from junk food. And smoking like cigarettes is like really bad for your skin as well. So definitely just, the skincare is, again, I'm going to say it again, is a demonstration of what's going on the inside of your body. If you take care of the inside of your body, it's going to show in your skin. Word is born.
Yeah. Yo, I think Chris should run first on this one. I think so. Yeah. Yo, I think Chris should run first on this one. I think so.
Netflix show that I'm hooked to. Shout out to Sope of Outlaw Bars from the For All Nerds show. They have subset shows that are really dope, and one of them is Outlaw Bars, and Sope is one of the co-hosts of that. Anyway, she always recommends those stuff to me, and one thing she recommended was User's Guide to Cheating Death, and they have like 2 little seasons. They're like 4 episodes each. They're pretty dope. Anyway, in it, the host, this guy named Timothy, I can't remember his last name. He talks about different things that people believe in. Like, for example, he does an episode on herbs and quote unquote holistic healing, and he debunks like a lot of myths. I think it's really dope. I love it because, and this is somebody who used to believe in that stuff. It's all snake oil stuff. It doesn't really work. And he has these different episodes that just talk about different things about how diets don't work. And the guy does like all these experiments, or he talks about different studies, and it's really dope, really scientific based. I highly recommend it, especially when you got those relatives that beat you over the head over stuff that you kind of like, man, leave me alone with that. So I highly recommend it, man. A lot of y'all gonna be mad, but hey, he puts the information out there. I hope he does one on Dr. Sebi, because I cannot stand Dr. Sebi and his followers. So that being said, check out User's Guide to Cheating Death on Netflix. Word.
This is a man's world, but it would be nothing without. This is a man's world.
Part 3, Part 3C, Zip line McCarthy. Heavy on the list. You blink my ice ring. John Lee Green. Yeah, that's small. Part 3, 2BC, Zip line McCarthy.
For how to approach women, this is actually something I want to do that's preventative. This is to the gentlemen, please, gentlemen, and please if you're listening to this podcast and this part of the episode doesn't pertain to you, please let somebody in your family hear it. A young cousin, a young nephew, your son, one of your classmates, your students, whatever. Let them listen to this. Alright. If you meet a young woman on the street, particularly at an event, let's say you meet her in an event and she turns you down, do not go into a social media and add her there and then DM her. Come on, man. You wouldn't want nobody to do that to you, right? So don't do that, man. That's super duper whack. It's super ridiculous. You a chump if you do that. Because what happens a lot of times is a guy will see a young girl that he likes at an event, and usually when they have an event, people hashtag it and they post it, and what they end up doing is searching for those pictures through that hashtag. I don't know why they would do that, and then they will find that person and add them on social media. Fellas, don't do that. That's whack. If you feeling her, approach her. Don't do it like that. That's creepy. That's intrusive. That's invading of somebody's privacy. You're invading their privacy. You wouldn't want nobody to do that to you. So don't do it to them. So this is a precautionary tale. Don't do it. That's stalking. I don't care what y'all say, how you feel about her. What you see in the movies when it comes to those rom-coms and TV, that's all bullshit. So just letting y'all know that. Let them know that. For real, for real. Shout outs are in order, of course, with my Killer Tape at. First of all, I want to shout out to my book club. We had a dope meeting. We always meet at the last Thursday of every month, and it's always good to see them. And it reminds me of how important it is to create these spaces where we can feel safe enough to talk about what's on our minds and just be with people who are like-minded. You know what I mean? Also want to shout out to my favorite watering hole, the Barrel House. And this is what I'm talking about. Like, you can have any business you want as long as it's rooted in the community that you in. They're currently taking donations for the Gem City Market, which is a local food co-op we're going to put on the west side, which is owned and run by the people, for the people. And I think, man, it just makes me feel good that I could, do something I like to do, drink alcohol, as you all know, and then support my local community. And the Gem City Market is actually family, because a lot of people that work on that are actually people that I know and love. And this is dope all around to do that. Shout out to the homie Misty Creates. She's the one that gave me the idea about the skincare, so shout out to her. Definitely And we out. There you go, ladies and gentlemen, episode 53 of Where My Killer Tape At. If you want to book me for any panel discussions, workshops, I can do capoeira as well, and hip-hop history and the 5 elements of hip-hop culture. Or if you want to talk about social justice, I did co-write a curriculum for that. You can email me at DanTresOmi@gmail.com, and that's DanTresOmi. And make sure you put in their bookings in the subject line. If you have any questions you want to ask me, use the same email address, DanTresOmi@gmail, DanTresOmi@gmail. In the subject line, put in advice, and I'll be able to answer your questions on the air. Let me know if you want me to keep you anonymous or not. Also, if you want to get me on the Twitters, definitely check me out at DanTresOmi, once again spelled the same. And then I also have another one for the actual show at Omi's Podcast. That's OMIS Podcast. And I love all of y'all. Thank y'all for supporting me, man. And shout out to the people that emailed me and was like, yo, you okay? Because I missed a whole week where I didn't post anything when it came to my podcast. Definitely, man. I see y'all in a bit. Word.